How to compose a class story. A class story is a great opportunity for you as a teacher to model good story composition to your pupils. It's not easy to write a story alone. When you have to do it in front of a class with a limited number of minutes in the lesson, it can be even more challenging. This video will give you some hints on how to write a successful class story with your pupils. First, pupils need to know what kind of story they will be writing. Will it be a fiction story or a non-fiction story? A fiction story is a made-up story with made-up characters. The stories in the primer about Apio and Ochen are fiction stories because they are not real people. But we bring them to life by imagining something that happens to them. A non-fiction story is a story about something in real life. The people, places and events in the story are real people, places and events that your pupils know something about. The theme, subtheme and keyword for the week can help you decide which type of story is most appropriate. For this video, let's pick one theme, subtheme and keyword and compose both a non-fiction and a fiction story. Theme: our home. Subtheme: people in our home. Keyword: atat, grandmother. Now, let us start with a fiction story. A fiction story always has three key components. 1. Characters. 2. Setting. 3. Action. The characters are who the story is about. A story can have many characters or just one character. The characters can be young or old, nice or mean, shy or outgoing. You may even want to use animals or objects as characters in your stories. Before writing your class story, you need to decide who the characters will be and what they will be like. Now, let's consider the setting. The setting answers the question where and when the story takes place. Does it take place at home, or at school, or in a jungle? Does it take place at night or in the morning, or during a rainy storm? Finally, and most importantly, you will need to create the action of the story. The action of the story answers the question, what happens? A good story sets up a conflict that the reader wants to learn more about. So, to repeat, a good fiction story answers 4 questions. Who is in the story? Characters. Where and when does the story take place? Setting. What happens in the story? Action. Now we are ready to write our fiction story about the keyword grandmother. First, who will be the characters in our fiction story? Let's use the grandmother to Apio and Ochen, since she is already familiar to the class. What do we know about her? That she is friendly and kind? That she likes to tell stories? That she is also old, so she has a tendency to fall asleep easily. The other main character will be her goat. What do we know about goats? Goats can be very stubborn. They like to eat just about anything. What about the setting of the story? Since the theme this week is our home, it makes sense that our story will take place at grandmother's home. The time will be on a sunny day. And finally, what will happen in our story? Let's have the goat break into grandmother's hut and eat her mat. It will be interesting to the pupils to decide what happens next. Now, let's review the 3 components of our story about grandmother. First, who are the characters? Grandmother and her mischievous goat. Secondly, what is the setting? grandmother's hut, a sunny day. Finally, what is the action? When grandmother falls asleep under the mango tree, her goat sneaks in her hut and eats her new mat. In the story starter, you will share these details and select pupils to act them out in front of the class. Acting out the story will help your pupils explore the concepts of character, setting and action further and get them excited to write a story together. Once the story is finished, you need to help your pupils compose sentences that will make an interesting, well-written story. Composing the story. Begin by having pupils think of sentences or sentences that establish the characters and the setting. Here is one example of a good opening. Grandmother was asleep under a tree. Her goat was eating grass nearby. Then, ask your pupils, what happens next? The goat saw the door to grandmother's hut was open, so he went inside. Again, ask your pupils, okay, and then what happened? The goat found a brand new mat and ate it up. We want to write short stories, so it's time to resolve the conflict. The next question might be, and what did grandmother do when she found the goat in her hut? The story starter you did with your pupils will give you your answer. Grandmother was very angry when she saw the mat. She decided it was time to have goat stew for supper. And so, our whole story looks like this. Grandmother was asleep under a tree. Her goat was eating grass nearby. The goat saw that the door to grandmother's hut was open, so he went inside. The goat found a brand new mat and ate it up. Grandmother was very angry when she saw the mat. She decided it was time to have goat stew for supper. As a final step, ask your pupils to think of a good title that will summarize the story well. For example, Grandmother's Hungry Goat. Congratulations! Our fiction story is now complete. It has characters, a setting, and action. It has a beginning, a middle, and an ending. Some weeks, a theme, subtheme, or keyword may be better suited for a non-fiction story. It's also good if your pupils are able to write non-fiction stories. Let's look at the steps to writing a non-fiction story using the same keyword, theme, and subtheme. A non-fiction story also has 3 key components. 1. A thesis sentence or a thesis question. 2. Supporting sentences. 3. A summarizing sentence. First, we need to brainstorm several thesis sentences or thesis questions about grandmothers that relate to the subtheme people in our home. Every home needs a grandmother. In the beginning, you may write the thesis sentence or question yourself. As your pupils gain writing experience, they can help you compose this initial sentence. Now, ask your pupils to think of sentences that support this thesis sentence. Examples of supporting sentences can be: Grandmothers prepare delicious food. Grandmothers tell stories that make us laugh. Grandmothers comfort us when we feel sad. Once you've generated several good supporting sentences, ask your pupils to think of a summarizing sentence. This sentence should restate the thesis sentence in a new way. Here's a good example of a summarizing sentence. Families need grandmothers because they keep everyone healthy and happy. Let's reread our whole non-fiction story and review the 3 key components. First story component, our thesis sentence. Every home needs a grandmother. Following this thesis sentence are supporting sentences. Grandmothers prepare delicious food. Grandmothers tell stories that make us laugh. Grandmothers comfort us when we feel sad. And finally, our summarizing sentence. Families need grandmothers because they keep everyone healthy and happy. Again, the final step, if time permits, should be to get your pupils to write a title for their nonfiction story. To summarize, the class story is a great opportunity for you to model the good story composition with your pupils. Using these simple formulas for writing fiction and nonfiction stories, we hope you'll feel confident when you stand in front of your class and ask them to write a story with you. And remember, like almost everything in life, the more you do it, the better you'll become. Have a great class!